Hey, I'm Liv, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages, and today's video is my reading wrap up for the month of March. So I'm counting March as a successful reading month. In March I participated in the Roll of Reads readathon created by Mel from a bookish themed named Mel. So it's successful. I didn't complete my TBR, but I'm still counting it as successful. I read 5 books and 1 webtoon. And I'm really calling this month successful because there was a couple of books on this list that were a little bit out of my reading comfort zone and not something I would normally pick up, and I ended up enjoying both those books. So I'm really happy with the reading I got done in March, especially because of how busy it was for me in terms of TAFE. So despite all of the busyness of that, I still managed to get a lot of reading done and a lot of good reading. So let's get into the books. The first book I read in March was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So I do own a physical copy of the book, but I don't have it on me because someone's borrowing it, so I'll pop a picture here. So this is a classic, and I normally don't read classics. I hate classics. I say classic sucks. I'll never read a classic, but I'll eat my words on that one because I really enjoyed this. This is about a main character who is in Monte Carlo, and she meets this older gentleman called Maxim de Winter, and Maxim is the owner of this estate that's been in his family called oh my god, I just had a stroke. What's it called? Manderley. Oh my god. Called Manderley. And they start to kind of spend some time together, and they really get along, and Maxim proposes to her and asks her to come back and live with him in Manderley. And we also discover about Max that he is a widow and his wife died. So when they both go back to Manderley, the main character kind of has to deal with the ghost of Rebecca, in terms of everyone loved Rebecca and talked about her, and she was really well loved. So she's kind of constantly reminded about Rebecca throughout the book. That's a really crap description, but anyway, it's a fantastic book. I gave this book 5 stars. Can you believe that? I gave a classic 5 stars. It's like unheard of. So I found this book so good, and I think it was like, I don't know how to describe this. You guys know I'm not good at describing what I'm trying to say, but like the mood of the book, you think going into it, I thought it was just going to be a boring classic about 2 people living on an estate, but like you read from the perspective of our nameless main character, which I also think is such a cool technique as well, in terms of leaving her nameless and constantly being reminded of the name of the dead wife, Rebecca. It just kind of adds to making her seem less important, and you read kind of her mental state throughout this book, and it was good to read from a main character seeing the mental state of someone with quite a bit of insecurity about herself and about her place, and the constant comparison of her to herself to Rebecca was really interesting to read. There is a lot of descriptions of like flowers in this book that does have its purpose, but can get a little bit repetitive. I remember I started the first chapter and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate this, but it's not too bad. It's just like sometimes the descriptions are a bit too much. You're like, okay, I get it, like it's a flower. But I mean, other than that, I really loved it, and I did not see that kind of dark twist coming, and that added to the suspense and the tensity of the book, and reading our main character's mental state throughout the book, and her finding her identity and her voice because she is such a young character. There were bits that I didn't like. I guess maybe it just shows the age of the book, the relationship between Maxim and our main character, and the way that he speaks to her and talks about her is kind of a bit like, I don't like it. It can be quite condescending as well, and he just uses her age as an excuse. I don't know if that's meant to be part of the story or if that's just the writer, but I didn't really agree with that. I didn't really like reading those bits because I found them a bit condescending and a little bit sexist, but maybe it's the age of the book. It is from the 30s. It was published in the 30s though, so you know. sign of the times. But anyway, yeah, I found it really good, and like I kept wanting to pick the book up because it was like there was an overarching story that I won't say because it's major spoilers that started to occur that really kept me intrigued and on the edge of my seat. And I really liked reading from the main character's perspective. I thought her growth and seeing how she changed and developed and grew up throughout the book was really good, and the way that some particular characters treated her was awful to read, but at the same time kind of strengthened her, I guess you could say, and forced her to grow up and deal with all of that kind of stuff. So I thought it was really, really good. I would say it is a slower pace, but once you get to that big twist about like what happened to a certain character, that's when the plot really, really starts to kick in, and that's when I was like, oh my god, I need to keep reading. I need to know what happened. I need to know what's going to happen to these characters. So it is a little bit of a slow pace, but once you get up to that point and realize what's actually happening, the pace really really speeds up, because I started reading it a lot quicker and wanting to know what happened. So yeah, I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I gave a classic 5 stars. Still cannot believe that, but if you love classics and haven't read Rebecca, then definitely read Rebecca. And it was a really, really interesting book, and as well as I wish I had my copy, but at the end it has, like, you know, when they teach schools in books, they have like a little bit of analysis at the end. That was really interesting, especially from a modern perspective, with discussions about character sexuality that is not talked about, because again it was published in the 30s, and a bit about the author's sexuality as well. So yeah, overall a really good experience, and I enjoyed Rebecca. I gave it 5 stars. It was good. So the second book I read in March was Honeybee. This is by Craig Silvey. I forgot to say for Rebecca, the prompt that was fulfilling was read a book featured in the Gilmore Girls, and this one was for read a book set on an island set in Australia. So I don't read a lot of Australian authors, even though I am Australian. So I'm glad that this month I was able to read something from an Australian author set in Australia. This book is about our main character, who is 14 years old. His name is Sam, and one night Sam is on a bridge about to take his own life. So please, 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 please check the trigger warnings for this book. Oh my god, so many triggering things for people in this book. And then he looks down and sees another older man, who he later finds out is Vic, also standing at the other end of the bridge about to do the same thing. So that kind of shared experience creates this unlikely friendship between the two, and the book is basically about their friendship and what they get up to. So this is really a book about mental health. It's about identity and sexuality, and it's not a book that dances around topics of mental health, depression, suicidal thoughts, abuse, and I thought it was fantastic. I can't talk from personal experience about questioning my like sexuality or anything, so I can't say from a representation wise if it's done well. I thought it was done well, but again, I don't have the experience to say that. Our main character Sam, you are reading about his mental state, his thoughts about himself, and it was kind of eye-opening for me to see the detrimental effects that not being, I guess, supported in your exploration of your sexuality and your identity, and what that can do to your mental health. Sam is a character that is surrounded by a lot of adults in his life that aren't willing to help him or understand his journey and his sexuality. So that really, really has negative effects about his self-worth, his view of himself, and his thoughts about his own worth and his life, the value of his life. So that was really eye-opening to read in terms of a character that is really exploring their sexuality and questioning their gender. The only problem I have with this book was there was a couple of scenes. Sam is 14 years old, and there was kind of a couple of scenes, not sex scenes, but that kind of, you know, area that did make me really uncomfortable to read because of the age of the character. But there were very few and not many and not long, so I was able to just kind of skim over that a little bit. The plot can be a little bit slow moving, but I think that's just because I'm used to fantasy and genres like that where there's stuff constantly happening. I think this book is less about the plot and more about the character's journey. So that's probably just a me problem and not an actual book problem. Yeah, I thought this book was super, super confronting. Again, check the trigger warnings because there is a lot of stuff in this. I thought it was still yet a beautiful and hopeful story. Really, really eye-opening. Lots of lovely, beautiful friendships, super confronting scenes, and discussions about mental health and discussions of euthanasia, but not really, like letting people choose. And when it comes to, yeah, I guess discussions about, they don't mention euthanasia, but it's kind of the idea of choosing when you're ready to go in terms of like if you're suffering like health wise. So that was really interesting as well, because euthanasia is not legal. Well, it will be in the state of Victoria in a couple of years, I believe, but it's not legal in Australia. So that was really interesting. And again, it was great to read a book from an Australian author with an Australian setting. I think that really improved my enjoyment of this book because I really don't read a lot of Australian stuff, if any Australian stuff. So I found this really, really important book. I found it really, despite all of the horrible themes, I found it quite inspiring and beautiful and eye-opening. So I gave Honeybee 4 stars. The next book I read in March was a flop, and that is They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. This is a young adult thriller. You can't even call it a thriller. I'm sorry, you can't call it a thriller. So this book is about, I can't even remember the characters' names. I've like wiped it from my memory. It's about 2 sisters in America, and they're on like a high school track team. And they're both like the best at what they do, and they need to get scholarships through the track team to get into college, so they're super competitive and driven. There's one character that's super driven, and then there's the other sister that is still driven and good at what she does, but she has to have a little bit more of a party life. And then there's this new girl that joins the team, and then this new girl vanishes, and these sisters kind of get dragged into the investigation about what happened to this girl, like where is she? So that's the basic premise of the book. This book sucked. It's not a thriller. You can't call it a thriller. If you want to see my rant, I have a massive rant about it in my, I'll pop it up the top in my vlog. Yeah, where's the plot? There was no plot in this book. The 2 sisters were so similar, despite there was like one thing about their personality that made them different, and I kept having to like scroll back because I was reading it on my phone. I kept having to scroll back to see what sister's perspective, because you read from their 2 perspectives. I kept having to scroll back to see what perspective I was reading from, because like I couldn't remember, because they're literally the same person. There is nothing that sets them apart, and it makes a really confusing read. You're like, wait, who am I reading from again? The disappearance of this new girl is like literally, I don't care about it because she was new, and our main characters probably interacted with her like 2 or 3 times, so not long enough to make a really, like they talk about her like she was like their best friend, but they barely had any interaction with her. You as a reader barely got to know this new character, so when she went missing I was like, I don't care, like I don't know her enough. They didn't write enough about her for me to make a connection to care that she's vanished. And the characters, like, I don't know how they got dragged into this massive like investigation even though they barely knew the girl. And it's not like the great book, like I keep comparing it to this book because it's the only other young adult thriller I've read, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, where you follow along the investigation. There is no investigation in this book to follow along. There's the characters do like one bit of investigating and they're like, oh, okay, we've got the wrong guy. That's it. The investigation is done from another character who you don't read from or hear much from anyway. So there's no thriller. The twist is so like unsatisfying and boring. I felt connections to none of the characters. I did not enjoy the plot. There was no plot to enjoy. It was super boring. You basically just read about these two sisters running and talking about their feelings. And the ending was really unsatisfying. None of the characters involved in the disappearance seemed to have to face any consequences for the part that they played as well. I was like, that's it? Like, they're just gonna let them walk away from this? Like, they committed a crime. Where's the consequence? This book was horrible. I gave it 2 stars. I don't know, like, the last time I gave a book 2 stars. I'm usually very generous with my rating, but this book sucked. The characters sucked. The plot sucked. There was no thrilling aspects about it. The mystery was dumb and I felt no connection to it. And it was a horrible experience, and what a waste of my month reading this book. I was so excited to find another young adult thriller I could read, but don't read this book. Please don't. It's awful. It's so bad. Then we have V. Schwab's new book. This is Gallant. I think this book is technically young adult, but I feel like it has a bit more of a middle grade vibe to it. This is about our main character Olivia, who is 16 years old, and Olivia is missing 3 things. Her voice, her mother, and her father. Until one day she gets this letter from her estranged uncle asking her to come live at their family home called Gallant. And Olivia can also see like ghouls and ghosts. And once she gets to the house Gallant, she realizes that her uncle is dead, and the only people living at Gallant is her cousin Matthew, and the kind of staff that help run the house. And she realizes that how do they describe it? She then searches for answers about her family and her past, and discovers a dark reflection of everything she knew. And there's kind of a dark master waiting for her to arrive. So this book is really, really good. I said in my reading vlog that this kind of gave me Coraline vibes. I haven't read the whole book of Coraline, but I read a little bit of it, and it kind of gives me that vibe. This book is like haunting, and it's really like done well despite the fact that there's really limited dialogue, and you're mainly because our main character doesn't speak. So that was some nice representation as well, which I enjoyed. So it made it even more interesting because she's so like observant, and interesting in the way that she communicates. And I guess a bit of her struggle to be heard and seen. So yeah, this book, I don't know what to say. I, again, don't know how to verbalize how much I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. It was so haunting and atmospheric, and it felt like a fairy tale in the way when we start to get into the storyline of the Dark Master and the kind of dark secrets about Olivia's family. And I thought it was really, really good, and the ending was so like sad but satisfying in this at the same time. I loved the writing of this book. This book just proved again why I love V.E. Schwab's writing. She's so good at writing dark, creepy stuff like this. I also love the mixed media. Olivia, at the start, the only thing she has of her family is her mother's journal. So throughout the book you get to see the I guess the mental state of her mother. So they put in little clippings from her mother's journal and the drawings in the journal, which just immerse you even more in the story. And as you find out information, she puts in again the journal pages, so you get a more of an understanding of her mother as you uncover secrets throughout the book, which is just another amazing aspect. I don't know what to say. This book is haunting and atmospheric, and the writing is amazing. The descriptions are beautiful, and this is such a quick and easy read. I love it. I gave it Gallant 5 stars. The final book I read in April is This Is How You Lose a Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Mahar. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. So, I literally picked up this book because I kept seeing quotes on Twitter, and I was like, what is that book? Like, it sounds amazing. The quotes are like beautiful. And I discovered it was this book. So this is an adult science fiction book. This is basically about a time war, and we have 2 agents on different sides. And one day one of the agents writes a letter and leaves it on the battlefield for the other agent as kind of a taunt. And then the two agents start this communication with leaving letters for each other all across time. And what started as a taunt starts to grow into something more and grow into a beautiful romantic relationship through the letters. So this, I love anything mixed media. So you're basically reading the letters that they leave back and forth to each other, which is, oh, it's stunning. The writing in this is beautiful. At first, I was really unsure what to rate this. But I was on Mel Sprints and I was talking to Erin about this. I'll leave their channels, of course, in the description. And she said it a million times better than I ever could, that it was more of like, she's described it as like a sensory experience, and it really is. A lot of the descriptions about how they feel about each other and how they express themselves are really through taste, which is such a unique and interesting thing. Like, I love it. I couldn't tell you the plot of this book, but like Erin was saying, that's really not the point. And I think now that I've thought about it, I agree. They give you the basic kind of understanding of the plot, just enough that you kind of can understand the context behind the letters and their feelings and this situation that they're in. There's a lot of big sci-fi words that aren't explained, but I think they're not meant to be explained. You're not meant to focus on that. You're meant to more focus on the letters and like the feelings in the letters. The writing is absolutely beautiful. Like, the way they express themselves is absolutely stunning, and no wonder I was obsessed with seeing all the quotes on Twitter, because I just want to go reread this and take a highlighter, which I never do in my books, and just highlight like every beautiful quote. If you read this book, just know that this is not a book where you're going to understand the plot. This is a book where you literally just focus on the letters and the feelings in the letters. I literally read this in one sitting. It was that good. It's only 200 pages, and a lot of the pages are the letters, so it's easy to read. The writing was like sensational. This is a beautiful book. This is a beautiful love story, and I'm still not over it. I don't think I'll ever be over this book. I think this will be a book that I will reread time and time again. It's stunning. I gave This Is How You Lose the Time War 5 stars. So those are the books I read. I then read a webtoon for the first time, and I found a new obsession. Wow, I love webtoons now. So this is a webtoon called Brimstone and Roses. I'll pop up a picture. This is a really cute story. This is about our main character, B, and B is invited to her sister's wedding, but her ex-girlfriend's going to be there and she's totally over her. But she doesn't have anyone to bring to the wedding, so she summons a demon, as you do, to be her date to the wedding, but the demon tricks her and lies in the contract and is around longer than she anticipated, and it's kind of that comedy of her being stuck with this demon. This story is not at all what I expected, but in a good way. I thought it was just going to be a cute little romance, but there's so much more to it than that. So this is really good representation of mental health. So B, our main character, lives with depression and anxiety and has panic attacks throughout this story. So it is a great depiction of living with mental health, and a depiction of living with mental health and balancing it with your work life and your relationship. So it handles that really, really well and has really important discussions about that. The art style is like stunning. There's some absolutely sensational drawings in this book. Like, the author is so talented. And as well, I can't speak today. I'm rushing. I'm like in between classes and I have to finish this before class starts up again. The representation in this book is amazing. You have great representation in terms of race and racial backgrounds, and in terms of sexuality as well. So if you're a reader that really looks out for great representations in what you read, then I would recommend this one. The romance is adorable. There's so many ships in this book, and that's the problem. Like, there's a couple of people that I ship her with, but I know what I want Endgame to be, but you know, it's great. Without spoiling it, this is a fun book. We have fun, cute moments with the kind of comedy of her and a demon in her apartment. And then we have super serious discussions about mental health and living with depression and anxiety, and I guess trying to support someone in the best way you can that lives with that, and the impact it has on your relationships with people. Yeah, this is a sensational webtoon. I absolutely adore it. I'm sadly now up to date with it though, which I'm really sad about, because now it's on a hiatus, so now I have to wait for it to come back episode by episode, which is really sad because I love it, and now I cannot wait for the next update. If I was to give a webtoon a rating, 5 stars. So there we have it. That is what I read in March. I read 3 great books, 1 not so great book, and 1 great webtoon. I jumped out of my comfort zone a little bit with reading a classic Rebecca and reading Honeybee, which is not something I would normally read, by Craig Silvey. And I found some new favourites for sure this month with This Is How You Lose a Time War and Gallant. So I'm super happy with what I read this month. The only thing I didn't read, well, there's 2. I was meant to read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I DNF'd it. I just don't think Harry Potter is my thing, to be honest. And the fat phobia, ugh, it was annoying me. I cannot believe I'm saying that, but I don't know if I'll be continuing with Harry Potter. I don't know if I missed the timing. Should have read it when I was younger. I don't know. Convinced me to read if I should continue on. I'm not feeling it. I'm really not enjoying it. And then, I was also meant to finish The Burning God by R.F. Kuang for the Poppy War Readathon. This is the 3rd and final book in the Poppy War trilogy. I got up to, yeah, literally only read 200 pages. I loved the previous 2 books. I gave them 5 stars, and I do think I'm gonna love this book. I'm enjoying it so far, but I just got a bit mood ready and slumpy towards the end of the month, and I don't want to force this book because I don't want to hate it, because I know I am going to love it. So why read a book when I'm not in the mood to read it and spoil it for myself? So I'm not DNFing it, I'm just popping it down for now, and I'll pick it back up when I'm actually in the mood to read it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. What did you get read in the month of March? I would love to know. How many books did you read? What was a standout read for you this month? As always, my social media links are in the description below. What else do I need to say? Oh, like and subscribe. If you like this video, a like would be awesome. And if you subscribe, you will get to see when I post new videos, and it's really helpful. I am attempting VEDA, so I will be hopefully posting a new video every day for the month of April. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but come along, subscribe and see how quickly I fail. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in whatever I post next. Bye!